What a cute dog, a pug, a chow, a mastiff. They're anything but cute from the inside. Suffering is not cute. PETA calls these dogs BIBs. BIBs explained next on the PETA Podcast. Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this inside look at animal rights, brought to you by PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. On today's episode, BIBs, not the thing babies wear at dinner, BIBs. BIB is an acronym, as in breathing impaired breeds. They're the pugs, the Lhasa Apsos, the Pekingese, the Shar-Peis, the chows. Big dogs like the bull mastiff, the boxers and bulldogs, both the American and the French. If they're bred to have a scrunched up face and big eyes, going for cute sentences a dog to a life of suffering. Health problems galore, from breathing irregularities to chronic inflammation of the brain to spina bifida, sleep apnea, eye problems, just to name a few maladies. Depends on the breed, but it all leads to the same place. Your dog is bred for suffering and unwellness. Colin Henstock is Investigations Project Manager at PETA, who explains the problems with BIBs, BIBs, on the PETA Podcast. BIBs. I'd never heard of a B. What is a BIB? What's it stand for?
Well, it's breathing impaired breeds. And these are the breeds who are bred so that their snouts are shortened and pushed so far back against their skulls that there isn't really enough space to accommodate their normal airways, which causes them a lot of health issues and a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah, but they look cute, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. And people want these dogs, right?
Exactly. They're bred to look baby-like. They have the big eyes and the bigger heads and the kind of shorter face. It's kind of designed to look a way that humans find appealing.
And is BIB... I mean, I had never heard of the term before, but when did it become a thing, BIB?
Well, I think PETA is really leading the charge to make that more of a common term for these breeds. They've been known as brachycephalic breeds for a while, but we want to emphasize that these are breathing impaired breeds to make it super clear to people that these animals are impaired. They're bred to be deformed, to fit a desired look that is detrimental to their health.
And so what brought this up for PETA to take the lead on, to even rename it? You know, here are BIBs. What was it? Was it the fact that these BIBs have become so popular?
I think that's a large part of it. The French bulldogs are now, according to the American Kennel Club, they're the most popular purebred dogs in America. Last year, I think it was over 100,000 new French bulldogs were registered with them. So, you know, it's people seeing these dogs on social media and on TV shows and thinking that they look cute and buying more and more of them that has really made the issue so much more vital and timely.
So let's talk again about the impairment. I mean, is it different? Is it essentially the same for all dogs, that if you're going to scrunch up their faces and make them look cute and bulge out their eyes and scrunch up their noses, is it the same thing? It's almost like you're breeding for a cute deformity, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of picture their snout as basically like a soft drink can that's been crushed, really. And there's not a smooth airway that goes back to their lungs. It's a kind of just a squiggled, crumpled, cramped airway in what's left of their snouts. And, you know, these are dogs like French bulldogs, Boston Terriers, pugs, Pekingese, boxers. Basically, any dog who is bred to have a very short face is going to suffer in this way.
And so these are dogs who, I guess, breeders figure, well, we'll cross this with another dog, or how do they? It's essentially a GMO dog, right? Genetically modified dog.
It is. If you look back a couple hundred years ago at what some of these breeds looked like at the time, you see that they had much more of a snout, and generation after generation of selective breeding just for these physical attributes has really gotten to a point that is so extreme that they basically have no snout left, and it really leads to so many issues for them.
So do you start off with a deformed dog and then pair them up with a normal dog to, like, you breed for the deformity? Is that almost sounds kind of diabolical?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's breeding an animal simply because you like the way the animal looks without regards to what that is going to do to the animal's health. And it's something that breeders have been doing for generations of these dogs, just taking them more and more extreme. And you see it in some other breeds that like German Shepherds with their rear legs being bred so that their hips are so kind of slinked down, and they want to get that gait where their back legs are very low and they kind of slink along. It's a common thing that breeders have been doing for decades to really exacerbate these traits to such an extreme that the animal suffers from the moment they're born until the day they die.
Yeah, it's almost strange because it is like saying, oh, we think the broken dog, the dog that can't breathe, the dog that has impaired physicalities, we think that dog is a good dog. It's almost really kind of diabolical in a way.
Yeah, and people will even listen to dogs like pugs or French bulldogs. They'll hear those kind of raspy, panting sounds that they make all the time, and they think that that's normal or even cute. But what that actually is a sign that that dog can't breathe properly. And in hot weather, which we're in the hottest year on record in recorded human history, those dogs are going to suffer and can easily die in especially hot weather compared to other breeds who are able to cool themselves by panting normally.
I see a lot of these dogs when I walk, my dog and we stop and, we try to be nice, but really I should be saying things like, is your dog really okay? Can your dog breathe? Huh? I mean, when I see a French bulldog, it's not like, oh, you got a French bulldog. I should say, is Louis breathing okay? I should be concerned about his health, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you see one of these dogs, especially out in the middle of the day in the heat or in a really humid environment, we really do recommend that people stay out of the heat with these dogs. Take them for walks in the morning when it's coolest, and reduce their overall excitement or exercise. It's really vital for these dogs. So if you do see one of these dogs who is really obviously struggling in the heat, it might be worth saying something to the owner to make sure that they're aware that their dog is in distress, because some people are clueless and they spend thousands of dollars on breeds like this and don't know how to take care of the dogs.
So let's talk specifically about some breeds because they're among the most popular. I mean, you mentioned the French bulldog. I'm looking at one now, and they've got that nose and that ridge on the nose. They look cute, but what is the problem with this breed?
And French bulldogs and pugs, a lot of those breeds, you get the same issues, but the snorting, coughing. Some of these dogs retch a lot. They tire easily and collapse and faint. And a lot of these dogs suffer from a really uncomfortable and debilitating and sometimes fatal condition called brachycephalic syndrome that makes it a struggle just to breathe. And that's actually the leading cause of death for bulldogs.
So we're talking French Bulldog, but now the American Bulldog is better?
No, they're in the same boat, really. And actually, a study within the past couple of years by the UK's Royal Veterinary College found that the average life expectancy of a French Bulldog was only around 4.5 years, which was the lowest of all the breeds that they studied. But the next lowest lifespans were all other Bulldog breeds and pugs. And those are also the breathing impaired breeds.
And so you got the French Bulldog, the American Bulldog. I have known a couple of Boston Terrier owners, and they have that kind of cute look too. They're GMO type dogs.
Yeah, they've been bred to have that severely short snout. They will struggle to breathe normally, especially in hot weather. And for a lot of these breeds, going for a walk or chasing a ball and running and playing, so many things that make a dog's life joyful and fulfilling is much more difficult for them, and can even be life-threatening for them because they can overheat so easily.
Now, you also have a lot of dogs here who are known as kind of angry and aggressive dogs, and I'm talking about dogs like the Bull Mastiff. I know that some people might argue and say, "Oh, they're babies, they're real delicate," but I've heard some real vicious stories about some of these dogs and biters. It doesn't have to be like a quote unquote vicious dog. It could be a Cocker Spaniel. I mean, these are all on the list of dogs that have these deformities, is what they are, right?
Yeah, and these are extremely popular breeds, and one thing that's really important is these purebred dogs, like Cocker Spaniels and French Bulldogs. They will intrinsically have genetic issues that can cause suffering for them. Like Bulldogs will have respiratory problems, Pugs will have that and eye problems, German Shepherds will have hip dysplasia, purebred Beagles are more prone to epilepsy. But the issue is that mixed breed dogs who are available for adoption at your local shelter, a lot of the times those genes that cause these issues in purebred dogs will be recessive genes that are essentially canceled out when more dogs are bred together from different breeds. So you'll see mixed breed dogs don't have these issues that purebred dogs have, and they're super common in a lot of purebred dogs.
So that's how you get the deformity, right? By keeping them inbred. That's how you get the snout or the scrunched up face.
Exactly. It's been breeders breeding for a short snout. Then once you get a snout that's a little shorter, you breed those dogs together. Then you breed, the results together. So it's a lot of selective breeding to have really drastic results over a few generations.
Now we talked about these other breeds. Like I talked about breeds that have known to be aggressive, like the Bull Mastiff or the Griffons. Or are the deformities that they've had to endure, does it add to the aggressive nature of the dog?
That's a good question, and I'm not 100% sure on the temperament issue. I mean, we see a lot in the field. PETA's field workers deal with a lot of pit bulls who are chained 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, and that certainly leads to more issues with becoming more aggressive, more territorial. They have this small little patch of dirt that they live their whole lives in, and that can certainly lead to a lot of behavioral issues where they're more prone to bite or have other behavior problems, be territorial, because they've been so mistreated over the span of their life.
All right, so I mentioned the dogs who have aggressive reputations, but there are also these cute little dogs like pugs and Lhasa Apsos and Chins and Pekingese. These are lap dogs. These are all the same they have the same kind of deformities in terms of the short snout.
Pekingese certainly do, and pugs certainly do, and pugs also have really bulbous eyes, and that can lead to eye issues with them as well. But yeah, even large dogs like boxers, even Neapolitan Mastiffs, that's an enormous breed with a lot of really heavy skin folds on their face. They're brachycephalic dogs as well too, so they struggle to breathe as well. So you really see these shortened snouts in dogs from lap dogs, as they would be called, all the way up to some of the biggest breeds that there are.
So what is PETA doing in the lead to try to change the perception that these dogs aren't these cute animals, but they really are these deformed animals who are at risk in terms of health? What is PETA doing in terms of reaching out to the public and to breeders?
The overall solution is simple. It's to get the word out for people to stop buying these breathing impaired breeds, and really any other dogs, because all purebreds, flat-faced or not, will suffer from these congenital conditions. And we are seeking to get the word out that anyone who has the time and money and patience to properly care for an animal for life should adopt one from a shelter. And we're asking those who already do have a breathing impaired dog to commit to making that animal's life as fulfilling and healthy and comfortable as possible, but to pledge to never buy another one.
Because really, do you find these at shelters, or usually the only way you can get a dog like this is, unless it's a real aggressive dog or a big dog, the only way is really to go to a breeder, right?
Well, not necessarily. There are actually a lot of purebred dogs in a shelter and all across the country. There's also breed-specific rescue groups. So if you've researched these animals and have a fondness for a particular breed, and are really set on adopting that specific breed, always research breed-specific rescue groups, or contact your local shelter, because there may be a dog in need of a home who is perfectly worthy of, having a great life with your family, just waiting to be adopted in your local shelter.
Yeah, but the real key is to go to the local shelter where there are lots of dogs and to not get that specific deformed breed.
Yeah, I mean, for the dogs that are out there, certainly, if you're able to provide a good life for those dogs that are bred to have this deformity, certainly feel free to adopt one of those dogs from your local shelter or a breed-specific rescue group. But really, every dog waiting for a home in a shelter needs your help, and they need a good home that can provide for them.
But what is PETA doing to go to the source, to the breeders, and to get them to stop? Is there efforts to go out to the dog shows, for example, and to shame the breeders, or to get them to change their ways?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do have PETA investigators who are out there all the time, and that's certainly one of the issues that they look into. And last year, we documented a Virginia pet store employee just candidly describing how the breathing impaired dogs that were sold at his pet store for as much as $15,000 didn't come with any kind of warranty, just due to their common health problems, which he said was a matter of when, not if, they would begin to suffer these health problems. He said it was only a matter of time. Then we also did have PETA investigators attend the Westminster Dog Show in 2023 and document what breeders and the folks who were showing these dogs said behind the scenes. And one French bulldog breeder even just candidly admitted to PETA that they breed dogs with shortened faces because they look cute, but that they know it causes health problems.
They also know that there's a quick turnaround. They don't live as long because they have the health problems. They die, and then they have these people, and they just want more. And at some point, they have to quit the breed. If you're a consumer, if you're want to adopt an animal companion, it's time to go to another breed or go to a mixed breed.
Yeah, it's definitely time to adopt from a shelter. And breeders will continue to breed these dogs because people keep buying them, just
Right.
simply put. It's a big business, and as long as there's money to be made by selling and showing and breeding these dogs, they're always going to prioritize making a profit regardless of how many of these dogs suffer and die in the process.
So this is really a demand issue. If people did not have a demand for the cute, scrunchy faced, deformed dog, they would not make them. I mean, they would not breed them. They would, if people demanded, well, we just think we need more shelter dogs. And, you put the breeders out of business because there's more than enough shelter dogs out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a public awareness issue that the conditions in a lot of these breeders puppy mills that churn out these really popular breeds to be sold at pet stores are horrific, and that if you buy a dog, you may give that dog a good life, but that dog's mother in the mill where your dog came from is not going to have that life. They're going to be in a hutch or a small pen, and they're going to be treated as a breeding machine that is a money maker for a breeder somewhere.
And Colin, why are you really keen on this issue? I know you've done a lot of things for PETA, but you've kind of emerged as a person here for the BIBs. And once again, BIB stands for
breathing impaired breeds.
Yeah, so the breathing impaired breeds. And when you see that acronym BIB, you got to think of Colin. Why are you into it? You look like you have a normal face. It's not scrunched up or anything.
Yeah, it's normal enough. I appreciate that. No, I think it's an increasingly important topic for people to be aware of. And the fact that French bulldogs have increased in popularity to the point that they're the most popular purebred dog in America really drives home the point how much more public awareness needs to happen, and how much more the word needs to get out that these dogs are great animals, that they're adorable, but they are bred to suffer for their entire lives because of an aesthetic that humans like. And that's a really cruel thing to do to an animal.
Boy, you said it, they're bred to suffer. And once that gets in your head, that why would you want to encourage a breed that is bred not necessarily for the enjoyment in terms of animal companionship, but is bred to suffer?
Yeah. And a quote that really sticks out to me a lot, a court case in Norway earlier this year ruled that the breeding of these breathing impaired dogs is cruel and results in human created health problems. And a veterinarian said about the ruling that these standards for the way that these dogs look have become so insane that these dogs are struggling, they're in pain, they're uncomfortable, and in a lot of cases, they need surgical correction to be normal. So it's not just PETA saying this; it's something that veterinarians know quite a bit about, because they're the ones that owners of these dogs are bringing them to, and they're seeing how these dogs really suffer.
Well, you're citing Norway. It sounds like maybe Europe is maybe further ahead of this than people are in the U.S.
They are, yeah. And another study by the Royal Veterinary College in the UK found that the pug has now diverged to such an extent from mainstream dog breeds that it can, quote, no longer be considered a typical dog from a health perspective. And the author of the study said, it's time that we focus on the health of the dog rather than the whims of the owner. So there's definitely an acknowledgement in other countries that these dogs are a major issue. And that's why PETA wants to get the word out in the US as well, too. And, make sure that people, when they see a French bulldog or a pug or a dog that's cute, also think that, that dog has a lot of issues because of that. And it's not cute to breed them to suffer because of the way that we like them to look.
So, all right. So PETA is going to have these ads going out to try to reach the public. You're reaching out to breeders. You're going to the Westminster Dog Show. There's some investigations. But what on that one-to-one grassroots basis? You're walking your dog. Once again, you see someone who has a pug. You see someone who has a chow. I mean, it's really a variety of dogs. You see someone who has a bull mastiff, we're talking about a range of dogs, but you identify them as a BIB. What do you tell these BIB, breathing impaired dog owners, about their dog? And how do you bring it up? Well, PETA is not necessarily known for bringing things up gracefully, but how do you bring it up with a neighbor or a friend with a dog like this?
Yeah, well, I think that it could be tough to approach someone in a tactful way just on the street. But if you do have a neighbor or a friend or family member who has one of these dogs, it's certainly extremely important to educate them on what's necessary to keep that dog healthy, which is reduce their exercise during the hottest parts of the day, make sure they have a veterinarian to stay on top of any developing health issues. But it really is important to make sure that people are aware of it, even if that's tough to do on the street, in a quick encounter with someone. If you do see that their animal is panting really heavily and has that shortened snout, it's totally an acceptable thing to check in with them, to say, hey, do you realize that he looks a little stressed out right now, and it looks like he's struggling in this heat, or something along those lines. It could certainly help that dog out if you did that,
because the dog, with every minute of his life, is suffering.
Yeah, I mean, these are dogs who, they want to run and play and romp in the woods, things that make any other dog's life enjoyable and fulfilling. But due to the way that their snouts have been bred to be so short, it can be impossible for them, and it can be deadly for them.
Colin, really, thank you for taking the time and for telling us about the BIBs here on the PETA podcast. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emil.
Colin Henstock, Investigations Project Manager at PETA, on why you should avoid BIBs, BIBs, breathing impaired breeds, dogs whose suffering is calculated cute, but suffering still. For more information, go to PETA.org. And that's our show for today. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to send a link of this show to your friends. Tell them you like the PETA podcast. You can contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Guillermo, or see my vlog at amok.com, or see my work at ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. That's ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. Or get this podcast on YouTube at Emil Guillermo 1. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts, where you can subscribe to, as well as rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Our music is provided by CarbonWorks. Check them out on YouTube. And join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.